Hey, great to see you, Zev and Nick.
Always a pleasure.
Nice to meet you, Roger.
Who's first? That's yours or mine.
Actually, to start, you want Roger to give his background?
No,
No? Okay.
nope.
Yeah, you want me to give a little background?
Sure.
All right. So let's see. I've been in the selling business for probably 35 years. Started my career. I've worked for four major companies in my time. I started off my career as a sales rep for Shell Oil, calling on gas stations and selling liquefied petroleum. Then I started to work for American Express, another big brand. I spent 30 years at Amex as the national director of sales. If any of you guys have a card in your wallet, chances are that I was at the merchant before you got there, because in that role, I signed up most of the major deals in the United States to accept American Express. Everything from JetBlue Airlines to Costco to SeaWorld to H&M to most of the major insurers. In 2020, I left Amex. I started my own sales training company. It still exists today. We train hundreds of sales guys in the merchant services space. And then in 2021, I joined Visa. And I'm currently the national director of B2B acceptance at Visa. I manage a portfolio of about 50 billion in spend on the Visa network. So I manage some of the largest B2B players here in the United States, everything from Dell to Microsoft. And I'm selling into those guys on a daily basis. So great to be with you tonight. No question is a bad question. Nothing's off limits. Let's get to it.
Actually, I can give you a little bit more about my background. So I've been in sales for about 23 years, technology sales. Also started a venture capital firm. So I get a lot of my leads through my sales consultative relationships. I try to be a trusted advisor with all the customers. So the technology I work with is telecom, surgical robots. It could be, Garmin watches. Could be, you've probably seen like then the Red Sox or Patriots game, like Evolve Technologies. They do like AI metal detectors. They're kind of everywhere these days, but a lot of cool technologies. And also have about 40 investors where we do seed capital rounds to up and coming startups.
Cool.
Hello, my name is JT Roberts. I'm a senior here at Bentley, majoring in management. I just had a question for the both of you, just to kind of talk a little bit about how each of you got into sales, if you went straight into it out of college or if you changed career paths, just how you got in.
Okay.
Yeah, Nick, you want to hit it first, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so like I said, undergrad, I went to Kansas State. I studied electrical engineering. I didn't like English, so I was good at math and science, and I did several internships. And as I did those internships, I was like, it kind of hit me over the head. It's like, wow, I'm really not a very good engineer, and nor do I love this. But I knew I loved people. And at one of my internships down in Dallas, I was just hanging out, having beers on the weekends, and met a guy in a sales training program. And he said, hey, I did the same thing you did, Nick, but I'm doing a sales training program at Texas Instruments. And I said, that sounds amazing. I met all of his friends. I'm like, I want to do this when I graduate. So through that connection, he put me in touch with the HR at Texas Instruments, and they promised me an interview when I went back to college and ended up getting the job. So through basically doing internships, I discovered what I liked, what I didn't like, and that's how I got into sales.
Cool. JT, I would tell you that I got a degree in marketing from Dublin Institute of Technology way back, and I wanted to be a pilot and started to learn to fly when I was about 16, got my license, and fully intended to be a commercial pilot at one point in my career. But having a degree in marketing and a number of airlines that were out of business, I landed my first job in sales. And I remember calling my mother and letting her know that. And my mother's first reaction was, I'm not sure about selling as a career. And my mother is 85 years of age today. I remind her of this very often, and we laugh about it because my mother was a hairdresser. And believe it or not, my mother was the best salesperson I ever met. So I would say to you, do what you are good at. I hear a lot of people say, work at your passion. If I worked at my passion, I'd probably be bankrupt. But selling is a personality. And I think if you have that personality, and as Nick said, you like working with people, there is no better career than sales. Zev will tell you this. Most people, genuine salespeople will tell you this. Salespeople make more money than most people in the company. They generate the revenue. And if you have the right product and you work for the right organization, it can be very rewarding and fulfilling. So that was kind of my path.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anna Seth Stone. I'm a senior here at Bentley University, majoring in information design and corporate communication with a minor in marketing. So while I'm not going directly into sales, this class has been very valuable. And it's nice to meet you, Roger and Nick. Tonight we were talking a little bit about kind of facing rejection and some of the challenges in sales, because it's not always all rainbows and butterflies. So I was wondering, Roger, in your sales training program, kind of a tip, if you could share a tip that you tell your trainees that we could all take away with us about how to face rejection and kind of how to bounce back, or share a personal experience and story. And you as well, Nick, if you have any insights to share about facing rejection and coming back.
Yeah, great question. I missed your first name?
Anna.
Anna, nice to meet you, Anna. So yeah, listen, I've heard Zev say this, rejection is part of sales. So if you're thin-skinned, this is probably not the career for you. But having said that, I've also heard in sales that you should never take it personal. And I've always disagreed with that. I think you should take it very personal when you get rejected, because it's a clear sign that you probably haven't done enough to earn or win the business. So when somebody says no to you, there's a reason behind that no. And that no is generally that you haven't provided enough information for them to make a good business decision. I've been rejected so many times, I would lose count. I would tell you probably the longest sales cycle of my career. I sold State Farm. State Farm was $1 billion deal. And it took me 10 years. And, about year 6, when the technology caught up to the demand and there was a possibility of selling it, I took a look at why I wasn't advancing. And I think as salespeople, we have to be uniquely critical about what it is we do and how we do it, because we're the ones responsible for closing the business. And if we're not honest with ourselves and we blame the customer for our woes, then we won't be very successful at this. So embrace rejection, but analyze it. Why did I get rejected? What happened? How did I move on from this? I have a very famous saying that Zev requotes me on all the time. People talk to people they like. They buy from people they trust. Create that trust and you'll cut down on those rejections.
Great tips. Thank you. Nick, if you had anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so thanks for the question, Anna. I'm actually going through something, right now I can talk a little bit about. I won't disclose the customer name, but yeah, over my 23-year sales career, you're going to get rejected a lot. So you have to have thick skin, especially if you're a startup trying to raise venture capital money, you're going to get rejected literally hundreds to thousands of times. So it's very, very hard. But yeah, so I have a large customer, been working on the deal for 4 years, and we basically hit everything the customer wanted. They basically said, we love this product. We're going to place thousands of pieces of orders with you. And then it went through their cybersecurity IT risk department. This just happened 2 weeks ago. So we're going through it. And they basically put the kibosh on it. They said, we can't use your product because we found out some of the parts are manufactured in China. That's never happened to me before. And so obviously we're going through it. It was tough to hear with all the time we put into it, but we understand their concern. I've talked to basically every single executive VP there on why they're concerns. And we basically said, we will take this product and we will build it in a different country to satisfy your needs. So still work in process. Whether we win, it's remained to be seen, but it's always tough to hear no when you put a lot of time and effort into a customer. And Roger, your 10-year design cycle, I've had several of those, like a medical customer of mine. I think I'm on year 10. You know, they probably won't go to production to year 11. So
Yeah.
we started that in 2014. So some of these design cycles take forever. So depending your sales, you know, what type of sales you do, some sales are immediate. Some sales may take many, many years. So.
Great example. Thank you both.
Yeah.
Hello, Roger. Hello, Nick.
Hi.
I'm Haider. And from both your stories, I understand that you guys started off with sales and then went over to start your own new ventures. So I would like to understand about the transition from sales and what you did from sales to start your own new ventures.
Yeah. You know, Nick, you want to take that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I firmly believe, along with Professor Young, sales is literally the most important skill you can have, whether you're in sales or not. Because if you are a engineer, you're going to have to sell your boss. If you are a portfolio manager, a venture capital fund, you're going to have to sell your investors to invest in you. So no matter where the scale you are in a company, you always need sales skills. And so how I got started with my venture, I started off in sales. I went to business school to Babson. I was actually planning to go work for a hedge fund, got an offer back in 2014. My current sales job basically said, well, you can stay with us and we'll let you start your own company. And so I had a few investors approach me to start investing monies. I started doing stock and bond investing back in, you know, about 10 years ago or so. And actually through one of my relationships with one of my customers, and you know, when I want to stress, build really, really strong relationships with your customers because it'll make your job that much more easy. Yeah, but one of the VPs I was working with went to do a startup, and he called me and said, Nick, would you like to do a potential friends and family investment? And I said, you know, I'll look into it. And I got so interested. I hadn't started the venture capital fund yet, and I talked to a lot of my investors, and there was huge support. People wanted to go into a venture capital cybersecurity investment, and because of that, I looked at all kinds of attorneys and ended up founding a venture capital fund back in 2015. So that's how I got started. But it originally started because of my relationship with my customer.
Yeah, that's a great story, Nick. I mean, you know, in my last few years at American Express, I found myself, I was leading a national sales force. So I had multiple people reporting into me. And a lot of the time in sales management, you're coaching, you're teaching. And, you know, on numerous occasions, people would say to me, hey, you know, you should do this for a living. And I would come home and I would tell my wife that. And she said to me at one point, you should start your own business and do this for yourself. So when I got the opportunity to take a package and leave Amex in 2020, essentially an organization paid me to start a business. So within hours of deciding that I wanted to leave, we had created a curriculum for a specific set of the market that I work in. And I think sometimes salespeople see very unique opportunities that others do. Our minds are just wired that little bit differently. We don't think like engineers. We don't think like accountants. We think like salespeople. And salespeople are wired to figure out the easiest direction from point A to point B and get that done as quickly as possible, as effectively as possible. And I saw that route with the product. I saw that route. I took it. And as I say, I still work for another company today, but I have that business. It's up and running today. So everyone's going to find their different comfort level. When you own your own business, you are the chief salesperson. You are the one that's out there pitching the investors. You are the one that's out there pitching the bank, pitching whoever it is, the clients, whoever it is. So you never lose that sales hat, so to speak, whether you're working for somebody else as a salesperson or you're starting your own business. Listen, I would argue this. Sales is so prevalent today that most people are selling when they don't even realize it. When you come to class there and you forget to do the assignment that Zev gives you, and you're giving him an excuse for that, you're actually selling him. You may not realize it, but we're all either buyers or sellers at some point in our existence.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello, Nick, Roger, very nice to meet you both. My name is Jose.
Nice to meet you.
My name is Jose Zamora. I'm from Puerto Rico. And basically, I'm reading a book about a topic that I feel like interconnects with this idea of failure, and it's about confidence and how that affects performance. So I was wondering, obviously in a world where both of you have probably had to meet with a lot of intimidating people, you've had to deal with some lucrative deals, and you've also had some probably tough days. I was wondering, how do you make sure your confidence doesn't waver?
You want to take that one first, Roger?
Yeah. So that's a great question. I mean, listen, I would say if you grew up in my house and you knew my mother, she was 5'11". There aren't many CEOs that can intimidate me worse than that. So I had a good training ground. But I would tell you that mastering your product, mastering your information, mastering your domain, creating that own self-confidence by doing that is the key for me to success. Going into a sales call, I find with half the information or, some of the knowledge of the product is like going into a lion's den. So a lot of my selling is done, to the CEOs or the CFOs of some of the largest corporations in the world. These people get up every day and they dress themselves the same as we do. So putting them on a pedestal is the first thing that I try not to do. But what I try and do is make sure that I am an expert in the information that they'll want to know from me. I find in sales that people will be happy to receive information from you if it's information they don't know or don't have. Now, inserting that in is a little bit of an art. But I would say the overarching thought for any young person today is don't think too deeply on this. Be a doer, but be a master of what you do. Don't leave anything to chance. Don't try and shortcut, and make sure that you know everything possible that you can know about the product or about the person that you are going to sell. So that's what I would say improves your confidence.
Yeah, and as far as when you're in sales, you're going to have lots of rejections, right? And I have a strong sports background, so I'm always a hard worker, never take no for an answer. And I think I learned very early in my sales career where I was actually going to accept the no from the customer. I was with one of our sales reps when I was at Texas Instruments. We walked into a customer and they flat out told us no. And I was brand new on the job, 2 months, and I was like, wow, that sucks. So we walked out of the meeting and my senior sales rep said, Nick, let's go back in there and offer him this, free sample and let's see what he does. And so we actually walked in there, talked to the customer, said, hey, we want you to offer you this free evaluation sample. And he actually accepted it and we ended up winning the deal several months later. So I think it's just not taking no for an answer.
Thank you to both.
Yep.
Cool.
Hi, Roger. Hi, Nick. Nice to meet you. My name's Carly. I'm a marketing major with an international relations minor. I was just wondering, what was your biggest failure in sales, and what was the most impactful takeaway you took from the failure?
Oh man. Well, the biggest deal that I ever failed to get, and it's still out there today. I don't mind naming names, so that it's not like they're going to jump in here and dispute this. But I don't know if you guys are familiar with a Buffett company called NetJets. So they're the largest fractional jet owner in the country. They have about 700 plus jets. And at the time that I was working for Amex, I tried to put a deal together across multiple fronts. So a card partnership, an acceptance deal, an issuing deal. And I spent about 10 months, getting the right people, building interest. And, we pitched the deal and I was fairly certain that they'd go for it. The problem was that we were asking them to be an exclusive. And in our business, what that meant at the time was we were asking them to accept only American Express as a form of payment. So no Visa, no MasterCard. And while that wouldn't seem odd for someone like NetJets because of their clientele, it posed a little bit of a quandary for them that I didn't anticipate. And the deal was rejected. It didn't happen. And I tried an end around on the deal with Warren Buffett, and he sat on the board of Amex at the time, or he was the largest shareholder of Amex at the time. And I tried an end around with someone on the board of directors to influence him, and it failed. So probably that's the biggest. It was about $1 billion, but didn't get it. Do I lose sleep over it at night? Not a chance. You know, I look at those and say the deal was sound. Should they have done it? Absolutely. Would it have been a game changer for them? I think so. But sometimes there's an old saying, sometimes you can bring a horse to water, but you just can't make them drink.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so probably my biggest failure was about 4 or 5 years ago with a technology company in the Boston area. Won't say the name, but let's say they run basically 30-40% of the worldwide internet traffic. And we had a huge deal, a multi-million-dollar deal. Customer wanted to use this. We had the solution for them. And it actually didn't come from the customer why we lost. It came from one of my suppliers. They wouldn't give up some sort of special, software code. And my supplier walked away from the deal, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I've been trying to crack this account for 15 years. We finally had it on a golden platter, and my supplier walked away. And so that was tough, because you did everything you're supposed to do as a salesperson, but then not only you have to sell your customers, remember this, you have to also sell internally to the company you work for, or maybe the suppliers you represent. So they're selling both ways. So, definitely remember that in your careers, because there may be deals you want to win as a salesperson, but maybe your product management group at your company, well, we don't want to do that deal. So you'll come up, in your careers, you probably come up against that.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Hi, nice to meet you both. My name's Abby. I'm a junior here at Bentley, majoring in professional sales. My question is for both of you. Can you talk about one of your proudest achievements that you're really proud of in sales?
I would say my proudest achievement would be, definitely starting the venture capital firm. So, when that idea struck, I've had mentors over the years tell me this, you're going to have sometimes in your career like an aha moment, and you're going to have a choice. You can either do it or don't do it. And it just seemed that time I was like, wow, this is real. I mean, it's really hard to start a venture capital firm, but when I had it put in front of me, I was like, do I take the chance or don't take the chance? And I was like, I remembered that mentor telling me, like, that's that aha moment. And for me, it just struck, we're going to do this. I have no idea how I'm going to do it yet, but that's why we hired lawyers and everything. And we made an investment, our first investment back in 2015 for a cybersecurity company that's doing really well these days. So that was probably as a salesperson, because there was a lot of selling involved. You had to sell the company to take your money. You had to sell investors on why this is a good investment. So it was kind of a accumulation of sales skills I've learned over the years. So that's definitely my proudest moment.
Yeah, I would say, Abby, it's a great question. I'm proud of a lot of things in my career. Lots of big names, but I got paid for those. I worked hard, made good money. But I would say one of the things that as you get on in your career is, when you get a phone call from somebody that they tell you that they were really glad they worked for you in their career, and you taught them something, you showed them something, and you helped them. It's kind of funny, I should do this call tonight. Saturday I was at home here. I live in South Florida, and my phone doesn't ring much at the weekend. My kids are grown. My wife was at home with me, and the phone rang, and I picked it up. And it was a guy that I used to work for me, and he's in Massachusetts, believe it or not. And he was at an event with about 20 other people that used to work in my organization. And my name came up, and he picked up the phone and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to reach out to you and tell you, listen, I really enjoyed our time together when I worked there. I know we don't work there anymore, but hey, you meant a lot." And that's probably the proudest thing I would tell you that I see. we have an awful lot of, unfortunately, in corporate America today, I just kind of an add to this, there's a lot of not so great managers, but when you come across somebody that's a really cool person to work for, you'll remember that.
Hi Roger, how are you? My name's Luis Perez. In terms of the B2B relationships, there's always probably different layers before you reach a decision maker in those types of, let's say, meetings you have with companies like State Farm or other companies. So how do you manage to reach those decision makers and manage the people, the layer people before reaching those individuals?
Yeah. So you guys have it easier than I had, let's say 25 years ago. So before the internet, imagine there was no websites. There was nothing but the yellow pages. There was no company information or about sections or, somewhere I could go. If I wanted to learn about a company, I pretty much had to get their annual report somehow, right away to them and get it, read it, and have it sent to me. Today, it's a kind of a joke. I mean, it's so easy. We have LinkedIn. We have services that you can buy and enter in the name of the company, and the org charts pop up, and they give you the email addresses if you're willing to pay for it. So, when I started here at Visa, I received a list of 77 companies that Visa did business with, and nothing except the name of the company. They knew no information about them, astonishingly, and said, hey, start a relationship with these people. Now, these are companies that we're doing 3, 4, 5, 10 billion a year with. And you've got to figure out, where do I go? Now, this really is where it's all important. And I know Zev is teaching you this. Critical thinking today is the most lacking skill of young people today. I'm sure you guys are studying it real hard, but figuring out, what do I need to do next? What's logical? Who do I need to talk to? Why do I need to talk to that person? How would I get in touch with that person? It might be as simple as reaching out to them on LinkedIn. Hey, this is so-and-so from X. Whatever your value proposition is, I wanted to make contact with you. I very seldom try and sell anybody through LinkedIn. I want to make contact with people, and then I formulate a strategy of how I'm going to get with them. I will tell you this, though. One of the most useful tools that I use today, which is a long forgotten art, is the art of letter writing. Nobody writes letters to anybody anymore. I will tell you this, when you write a personal letter to somebody and put it in the mail and ask for a meeting, you'll be shocked at the response rate you get, because nobody does that today. It's email, it's voicemail, it's whatever other mail. There are so many things that you can use in your arsenal of tools to get in contact with people. But step one, critical thinking of how you'll go about it and what you'll do to achieve your objective.
Yeah, and great question. So I'm going to say, network. And, as you go throughout your career, the contacts you make today, 20 years down the line, which I'm seeing now, a lot of these people then are executive VPs, CEOs. And really the easiest way to get connections in an organization is if you have a relationship, typically with another C-level person that can make a warm intro. Now, I know being a young salesperson, that's not easy to do. But it's definitely important to network. And also be a power connector. Give back more than you receive. And what I mean by that is, if you know 2 people, and I try to do this all the time. I try to connect different startups with, I know this guy's an AI expert in Seattle. I'm actually just doing that right now. Connect them, have a conversation. And because of that, they'll typically give you information or help you out in the future. So.
Yes. So Nick, just so kind of FYI, I mean, I knew that I was coming on to this session tonight with you. So before I came on the session tonight, I looked Nick up on LinkedIn to read all about him, where he went to school, everything. I think it's only fair that if I'm going to be on a call with Nick today, I should do him the courtesy of taking a peek at what he's done. And he's had an incredibly successful career. But even a simple thing like that isn't a foregone conclusion today. But we need to develop that kind of thought process to reach out. Nick puts his information out there, so it's not creepy that I look at it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have put the information out there. So whatever we can do to further, but I love Nick's thing about networking. It is so true.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Nick,
Nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. Hi, Roger. So my name is Shuhan, and in the class, we just learned that we ask consultative questions that ultimately lead to a good closing, and a good closing is like essential, very important in that really determines if you have a successful like a sales or not. So my question is, what does a typical like closing look like in a real world business? And what are some great tips, great ways to have a good, really great closing?
You want me to hit that, Nick?
I can take it first.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's so many, not every customer is equal, and there's so many different sales deals you work. Some are quick close, some may take 10 or 11 years. But I think one thing a lot of salespeople miss is when you have meetings with customer, ask for the business. And I do that. Like I go, Mr. Customer, we are here and we are here to earn your business, and we would love you to place orders with us. And I do that, and you'll be surprised. Not a lot of salespeople will actually take that step and actually ask for the business. Sometimes they may be, a little shy. I don't know the word for it, but make sure to ask for the business. So I think asking for the business presents a good close.
Yeah, I would tell you there's 6 stages to most sales cycles, whether you recognize that consciously or unconsciously. Discovery, for me, is the absolute most critical phase. I like to view myself as a detective at a crime scene, and I'm solving a crime. It makes kind of the sales process a little funner too when you do that. So, asking the right questions to uncover the needs is critical, and going deep as you need to is absolutely important. A lot of people think that selling is won in the presentation phase. That's just the transfer of information. What I would tell you about closing is, if you've done the proper discovery and you've solved the need, the closing is a natural jumping off point in the sales process. It comes naturally. You've exhausted everything. You're there. The prospect feels this. And, people say things like, okay, so are we ready to get this going? Could be as simple as that. Yes, we are. Fantastic. Yes. You want to take the next step? Whatever that is, whatever that phrase is that you develop over time or whatever. We sometimes fixate, though, on the closing like it's this purposeful point. And I agree with Nick, you got to ask for the business. We just did there. But you do it in such a subtle way, but not until you realize that natural jumping off point. You'll feel it, you'll know it, but you'll be hesitant to go there if you don't believe that you've done enough to that point. Or you're looking across the room and you're reading a signal and someone's there with their arms closed and they're closed off to your idea. You'll just sense that that's not right. So closing, absolutely important, but I tell you, when you involve yourself in the other 5 stages and do them properly, that will come as a natural jumping off point.
That word is very important to note. Roger just nailed it. Think about closing. Think about what he said earlier from critical thinking. Right? We could do a whole semester based on closing, based on critical thinking. Closing, to me, there's a intuition, there's a guile, there's a gut. You're like a manager of a baseball team and you go with your gut in certain instances. Roger just explained it perfectly. That's what closing is. You can go in there with a trial close and all these other, I'm one of those people that just, you feel it. And it comes from conversation, it comes from excellent question, it comes from the relationship that you built. Right? It doesn't just come overnight where you're like, all right, I'm gonna close you tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. And you have to build up towards that relationship where you feel like, all right, I feel like we're there, I can ask for the business. Right? And that's a critical part of the sales process. And he's exactly right. Like, think about it. Plan, approach, dialogue, close, follow up. A little bit different than the 6-part process, but it's there. And it's us as salespeople that have to have that intuition, that guile in order to get there. So, great question.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Hey, how you doing?
Hi, I'm Maria Pereira. I know you guys both mentioned fields that you got like sales fields that take you guys like just like work towards. So I know like I feel like I've been a little bit confused before. But when you guys know like if you like sometimes like to just like take a step back from it, not like you're gonna quit on it, but I guess like see that it's not gonna go nowhere, like how much you wanna keep on pursuing.
Okay, no, good question. So I,
Nick, could you paraphrase that for me? I'm sorry, I missed that.
she was asking, how do you spend your time on an account? And when you determine that account may not be worth your time calling on. and moving.
Okay, cool.
That,
Yeah, basically.
yeah. And so, one thing, like when you're doing sales and all your, you have competitors in there, one thing is constant, and that's time. Everybody has the same amount of time, and you're gonna have to figure out where to spend your time to maximize your time. And I ask every time I get up every morning, I'm like, where do I want to spend my time today? And yeah, you're gonna work, and especially early on in your career, you may not be able to fill it. Yeah, I remember early on in my career, 1 or 2 years in, I'd want to work every single sales deal. Well, I didn't really have the experience to know that, maybe this particular startup may not grow, and that's something that'll grow over time. But I think researching those companies, Roger mentioned, look at it, their financials, if they're a publicly traded company, you can get so much information out of a quarterly earnings report. I actually just listened to an earnings report last week for one of my customers, and you can find out kind of what their strategic initiatives are. And if sometimes they'll pop up, oh, we're looking for procurement software. And one of the lines we sell is procurement software. And it may be a good intro to focus on that customer. Now, if you're with a customer with poor financials, falling sales, and you just spent 4 years of your time, you probably honestly want to move on to the next customer. So I think it's something you'll learn over time.
Yeah, so I would tell you that I'm very much a realist. But I'm gonna hasten to add this, and this is something we don't talk about in sales because somehow we think this is a little taboo or we shouldn't mention this. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I got into sales because I wanted to make a lot of money. Now, that doesn't make me a bad person. That makes me an opportunist. So if I'm delivering a product that's good, has value, and I find the right market for it, I'm fully entitled to reap the benefits of that. So very early on in my career at Amex, when I was a young rep, one of my leaders said to me, your objective should be to work to your bonus plan. So every year we got a new bonus plan, and it would give us what the company wanted. Some years they wanted volume, some years they wanted machinery, some years they wanted marketing programs, whatever that was. The company was essentially telling us in the bonus plan how they wanted us to perform. And I always remembered that. And, to Nick's point, time is the most precious commodity any of us have. So the CEO of a company doesn't get any more time than we get. We get 40 hours a week. We have to square everything into that. So it makes you very much a realist in the sense that you will not waste times on things that do not make you money, that are unproductive. You will farm those tasks out to others. You will find others to do those because you have to focus your core time on those activities that get you to your goal, which essentially gets you to the money that you're trying to make. So it's a good path. Now, again, this is something people might say, well, that's a little heavy. No, that's reality. If you don't make your goal in sales, you're probably not going to be there long term. Sales organizations don't employ mediocre salespeople. We saved that for, I think Zeb made the baseball comment, so I'll bring it up. We get retreads in the managerial roles of baseball. That doesn't happen in sales. If you're average at one company, the chances of you getting hired at another company to be average go down. If you excel at one company, the chances of getting hired at another company go up for you. And the longer you continue to excel, the more opportunity you'll get. But I don't know any average salespeople that have meandered 25 years in sales and been happy.
Thank you.
Sorry, Zeb. I don't know if that was popular, but I said it anyway.
All good. They need to hear it.
That's good. Hey,
Hi,
how you doing?
good, how are you?
Hi, my name is Ashley. I'm a senior here, marketing major and IDCC minor. Thank you guys both for coming out here today, especially zooming in from Florida. My question was, you guys both represent some huge companies and have some very big clients. So I feel like there's gotta be a lot of pressure on you, representing these such big organizations and companies. So wondering, how do you deal with that pressure and manage it? And then also, how do you not take things personally when they don't go your way when you're such huge stakes?
Yeah, so I'll talk 2 points here. So I think it's something you learn over time. So I typically never take a sales deal personally. And even if they're large customers, end of the day, it's people buying from people. And so whether I'm calling on a multi-billion-dollar company that makes, some of the best GPS watches in the marketplace, at the end of the day, they're people. So there's not a whole lot of difference. I don't really consider it pressure. I'm always trying to grow the sales, but I would say the most pressure probably comes from the venture capital stuff. Now that's I will say pretty high pressure. So I have 40 investors that, you want to make them money. You definitely don't want to lose their money. And then, cutting your own terms with picking the right companies to invest in, and then dealing with regulators can be pretty stressful. So I would say that's much more stressful on the sales side.
Yeah, I will give you probably a completely opposite answer to here. So, very early on in my career, I had a financial mentor that worked with me. He was very, very smart. And from day one in sales, he said to me, "Hey, are you investing in your 401k?" And I said, "Investing in my 401k? I can't afford to." And he said, "You can't afford not to," he said. Meaning I didn't understand that the more you invest in 401k up to the limit, it lowers your taxable income. And in fact, I was coming out with the same amount of money, putting 15% in my 401k as I wasn't. Very early on, I bought a home, and I made it my mission to pay the mortgage off as quickly as possible. Why? Well, to relieve the financial pressure off myself, because a salesperson who doesn't have any financial pressure thinks way more clearly. So I would say everyone's different, but I attributed a lot of the success I had in my career to no financial pressure. Made a lot of money, but I didn't spend a lot of money. I wasn't one of those people that when I got a big bonus check, I went out and bought a Porsche. No, I didn't do that. I saw people that did that and then had to keep up the payments with it and had to go crazy on it. Live very modestly, very well. Don't live extravagantly, cheaply. That's what I would say to you. So manage the way you live. It will take a lot of the pressure off you, but overriding all of that is become an expert in the product you sell. And if you get good at it, then the pressure is relieved in that way too.
Yeah, and actually I want to add to that. I meant to say this last spring, that's an excellent point. Make sure, when you get into the real world with jobs, invest. And I know when I first started my first job, I invested 50% of my income. And, I basically lived like I was still a college student. And now 20 some years later, it's paid multiple dividends because compound interest is the greatest thing on earth. It's if you invest early, you won't have to invest later in your life. And like I said, it'll relieve financial pressures. You can think more long-term instead of short-term, which will help you in your sales career. And I don't say invest in a Roth IRA as well.
Yeah.
Because one thing about a Roth is you can always borrow from that Roth in the future versus you can a 401k typically.
It's a great point.
I wish I'd have known that when I was 21 years old. I did not know that. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Nick. Pleasure to meet you. Thank you as well for joining us, Roger, tonight. My name is Aryan Singh, and I'm from Singapore and a senior studying in professional sales. My question is, we've actually been speaking about the discovery stage over the past couple of weeks, and kind of if you develop that connection with the client, it sets you well for the rest of the sales cycle. So my question is, are there any certain things that you guys do specifically, whether it's kind of questions you'll ask, gestures you'll make, or any certain habits or rituals that you guys personally do that you've seen to be successful during the discovery stage with new clients?
Yeah, I would probably tell you one of the techniques that I use is when I go see a client, I know a lot about that client, but I don't know a whole lot about the nuances of their business and how they specifically do things. In my world, it's about payments and how they get paid. So I want to find that out. And why do I want to find that out? Well, because I need to know that information. But I usually tell them that I need to find that out because I'm not sure whether we're a good fit for one another. Now, that's a kind of an unusual comment for a salesperson to make, because obviously I want them to be a fit because I want to sell them something so I can make money from it. But that comment has a tendency to disarm them a little bit. They've got someone sitting in front of them that needs to ask some questions because they're not sure whether we're actually going to do business together. So it actually relieves the pressure valve of them feeling like I'm pounding them over the head. Meanwhile, I'm asking the appropriate questions so I can come back around to this and present my product the way I want to. So I think a lot of the time, prospects expect sales practices. You know, their vision of certain salespeople is X. We want to take them away from that. And I know Zeb has said this to you and he posts this a lot. Selling is conversation, it's personality, it's finding mutual ground, it's uncovering needs. And we haven't even mentioned one thing about us selling a product yet. So there's so much more to it that as you do all those steps along the way, as you do all those basic functions, the selling actually occurs itself. And in a lot of cases, the client will come around and say, hey, I hear you guys have this product. We're looking to see if we can get that. Now the sell has become a buy, and it's a very different environment. So it takes all different angles. There's no one tried and trusted way, but that's what I would say as an answer to your question. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, and I would say on the discovery process, don't be the person that shows up and throws up, right? And that happened early in my career. So actually I went into a customer call my first year and I was supposed to talk about this product. I didn't ask any questions. I just knew I had a presentation. And a lot of times as a young salesperson, you're going to be intimidated. You may be meeting with a lot of PhD level guys. And so maybe that presentation is your crutch. And I was like, okay, I knew my presentation, but I didn't really ask big open questions to the customer to find out what they needed. 30 minutes in, they kindly said, we're not at all interested in this. So I just basically wasted 30 minutes of their time. So now when I go in, on the discovery process, you really want to find out, what's the customer need, get them talking, build that relationship, because the better relationship you have, it makes your job so much easier. I just actually had a former customer, he went to another customer, just called me up a couple weeks ago, and find interest with your customer. So this guy, I love to cook. I'm a huge foodie. This guy's a big foodie. And he called me up today and we talked 40 minutes. And I'd say probably 30 minutes of that conversation was like, we both have smokers, what are we smoking? Ribs, brisket, turkey, what have you. 10 minutes was business. And, but it's a huge business opportunity for us. But the only reason we have that is because of our relationship and interest we share. So try to find interest with the customer if you can on a discovery process as well.
Got 3 students left.
3 more, lucky 3.
Hi, Nick, nice to meet you.
And nice to meet you too.
Hi, Roger, nice to meet you. My name's Kylie. I'm a senior here at Bentley. I'm a marketing major and a Spanish minor. I work in biotech right now as marketing communications associate, and I do a lot of with our prospecting, post conferences, doing marketing qualified leads. And Professor Young's been talking a lot about casting that net wide, all your leads, all your prospects. And sometimes you don't always get what you want, what you think you might have. How do you keep relationships with ones that maybe aren't at the right time for you, vice versa, without, tarnishing a relationship that years down the line could still be worthwhile?
You want to take that one first?
Yeah, well, it's a juggling act, to say the least. Creating those relationships is a long-term play, and then juggling them after the fact. I would say the ability to be available. We talked about time, and how critical time is. You know, when you get out in the real world today, your time is going to be set upon to sit in meetings after meetings after meetings. It's always a telltale sign for me when I see somebody's calendar that's full from 9 to 5, and they say, hey, oh man, you know, I couldn't possibly fit you in. I've got meetings all day. That to me is not a very effective person. I don't have that. I reject probably 60 to 70% of the meetings that come my way for absolute BS nonsense that I don't need to be a part of on a daily basis. And why do I do that? I do that so I'm available, so that when the phone rings, so that when somebody sends me an email, I'm in the customer business, they can get me and I'm contactable. You know, one of the things a pet peeve in my sales training I talk about is on LinkedIn, having your contact information available. As a salesperson in LinkedIn, you have people who have LinkedIn and then they don't put any contact information in there, or they put their personal email address. I'm not sending business stuff to a personal email. Let me have your business email. Let me have your phone number. And if I really want you, I'll get you. Now, do I get 10,000 phone calls a day because of my LinkedIn has my phone number in it? No, I don't. But the one time that somebody wants me and they go to that and it's not there is detrimental. So juggling that, keeping yourself available, it's a tough task, but you know, making sure that you're there for the customer. That's the number one priority. I don't get paid to talk to the CEO of Visa. I get paid to talk to the CEO of the other companies on my list. So I'm not on his speed dial, but I hope I'm on theirs.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, I look at my contacts every now and then. I think I have over my career, you know, 5,000 plus engineering contacts, to say, in the Boston market. So it's a lot. And what you'll find is some of the contacts you make early in your career may get promoted. They may go to another company. So I think it's important to have those relationships, because the best thing that can happen is when this person goes to another company and said, hey, Nick, you know, I really valued our relationship. I value as a trusted advisor. Come in and help me with my design. And that happens to me, you know, occasionally. And sometimes you'll meet customers that, you know, you may not see eye to eye, and you're going to have to determine, like, do I need to work with that customer to try to improve that relationship? So case in point, say a multi-billion-dollar market cap company, there's tons of decision makers in that type of company. And you have to ask yourself, is it really worth my time to try to win this guy over, or do I focus my time on other people in the company? So this just happened to me in the last year. We went in for a meeting, and I've never had this happen in my career, but this guy actually got angry at me for taking notes. And I explained why I was taking notes. I said, well, I need to bring this back to the product, you know, factory to let them know what's going on. And, you know, he said it was, you know, top secret. I said, oh, we have an NDA, and I was going to win the argument. And I noticed just his body language with other employees was very negative. No employees would really even acknowledge this guy. And my thought after the meeting, I told the other people we're with, I go, this guy's not going to be here very long. And sure enough, he lasted maybe another 6 months and he was out the door. So I think you have to just know who you want to spend your time with. So
Awesome. Thank you both.
Great.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, how you
Nice to meet
doing?
you.
Glasgow.
Hi, Roger. Yeah. My name's Monty Darley, and since you both started your own companies, that's something that I'm looking to do after university as well. And my question was, what advice do you have when you're pursuing that, and in particular, building a strong brand for your company?
So, did you say your name was Marcus?
Monty, M-O-N-T-Y.
Monty, are you from Scotland, Monty?
Yes.
I'm from Dublin originally.
Oh, no way, I was there in the summer.
No kidding. Now, you know that I'm fairly good with accents, but I totally missed what you said there. So you're going to have to repeat it for me.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm looking to start a business after university myself, and I was wondering what advice you have for starting that, and in particular, building a strong brand for that company.
So give me a hearing. What are you going to start again? What kind of a company?
I'm not sure yet, but I want to go into entrepreneurship and pursue something myself. So
Yeah.
what advice you had for that?
No, that's a great question. What part of Scotland are you from?
Glasgow.
Wonderful. Been there many times. So I would go back to something I said very early tonight. You know, if I followed my passion in life, I'd probably be flying a 747 now, but I wasn't very good at it. So I did something that I was really good at, and that was selling. And I made a lot of money at that. So I would say to you, find something that you're good at. Find something, find some niche, whatever that might be. You know, I have no idea. There's so many new things out today. I mean, hell, people make a living on TikTok today. I mean, there's a bazillion things that you can find out there. But whatever it is, find something that you're good at and that you can become an expert in. And that doesn't mean that, you know, that can't be, you know, owning a chain of tire stores. Now, let me give you my example. There's plenty of chains of tire stores, but there's a lot of bad chains tire stores. Looking for a good chain of tire stores would solve a lot of people's problems. So it doesn't necessarily mean you have to find a product that no one knows about today. You just have to find something and be better than everyone else. You have to invest that time to be better than everyone else. You know, in my line of work, lots of people wanted to do what I did, but not a lot of people wanted to invest the time and the effort and the hours that are associated with it. If you do that, I don't care what it is that you start, you will be successful at it. So again, I don't know what that product might be. For me, it was sales training. Why? Because I was good at selling. So I figured I'd try my hand at selling, which proved to be a pretty good career after another career. So, you know, that's what I would say to you. Nice to meet you, though.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. And I would say, going back to sales skills, you know your customer, know your market. Because I talk to a lot of startups, and the biggest mistake startups make is they create a product with no customer. And that's typically leads to failure. So you really need to go find a market niche. Maybe there's nobody else doing this or do it a lot better than your competition. There's a good story, actually. My neighbor back in Kansas, I grew up in a town of 200 people, 13 kids in my graduating class. Our families went to church with another kid. He's about 10 years younger than me, but he started Toast. And you guys probably know Toast, the payment app. Jonathan Grimm's the founder, CTO of Toast. And, you know, his dad was talking to my dad maybe in church 10 years ago. And, you know, he borrowed money from his dad because he was working on this startup called Toast out of his friend's basement. And his dad told my dad, is like, I'll probably never see my money back. And, but I told him I'd take it out of his inheritance. Well, needless to say, you know, they IPO'd a couple years ago. And I think on paper, the kid was worth 1.6 billion at age 34 or 35. But how he got there is he actually worked for another company, Oracle, where they did payment systems, and they noticed how bad they were. They would go for drinks at a bar in MIT Cambridge area, and the bartender basically said, you know what you guys should do? Like, after work at 2 in the morning, I have to sit here at my stupid computer terminal reconciling all my statements. Could you create something I can use on my phone or laptop at home? And that's what they did. They basically did a cloud-based restaurant POS system.
Yep.
Yeah. So use your sales skills, know what your customer needs, and then create value for them.
Monty, I would say this to you too. You know, Zev probably goes over some of these examples in class too, but here's some big names that you may not be familiar with their history. So FedEx, before FedEx was successful, FedEx almost went out of business. Fred Smith, who's the chairman of FedEx, invested his last $10,000 into the company. And he was very fortunate to get a contract that saved him and became what FedEx is today. Most people don't realize this. Maybe you guys are a little too young for this, but Amazon was a complete failure before it was a success. Netflix was a complete failure before it was a success. And Netflix only became successful when the speed of the internet caught up with streaming. So the concept was there way before it, but there are things, market forces, there are things that happen out there in the world that just occur at the right time. So those are examples of well-known businesses that succeeded despite having successful products. There are lots of other examples out there, but I couldn't agree more that sometimes products are developed when there isn't a market for it. And sometimes they're developed just before the market is ready for them.
Thank you, appreciate that. Cheers, guys.
Hey, Roger.
Hey.
My name is Scott Higginbotham. I'm a marketing student here at Bentley. Just wondering, let me get a quick question because I know we're just out of time, but what's kind of kept you kind of motivated and excited and passionate with your careers over time? I know you guys have both been in the industry for a while. And then how do you make sure that you kind of shine through that passion to customers when you're in a sales call?
Yeah, I'd say the biggest joy I have from doing sales is, you know, working with a customer from a conception idea and then seeing them through several years later to an actual product. And then you're actually out in the marketplace, you know, like a Garmin. You know, I worked on several of their watches. So seeing that product in the marketplace actually brings me great joy. I'm like, wow, I actually worked with that customer when it was just an idea. It's a real product and now people are buying it. So that's a big joy of mine.
Yeah, for me, the longest time, I gotta be honest with you, it was money. You know, I would say it's very much less that today. My kids are grown, gone to college, paid for, you know, I own multiple properties, paid for. You know, if I want something, I can go out and buy it. So it's not really that anymore. What it's more about for me now is, you know, I'm in an industry that's large, payments industry, you know, is all encompassing, and it's for me, it's about recognition of accomplishments within my own industry. So you know, I would say that's the motivating factor. Listen, I'm on the back nine of my career, so I'm not out there trying to drive 350 yards every day of the week, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to be the best at it every day of the week. I do want to be the best. I do want to be the foremost authority on my subject. You know, I do want to be a go-to person for information and for everything that goes on in my industry. So there, as you evolve in your career, things change. You know, so I feel like I've evolved over time. I probably have evolved since I met Zev too. So Zev, I hope that's okay to say.
Good with me.